بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول النبي الكريم. So, Alhamdulillah, over the past, I think it's been more than I forgot how long has it been, Alhamdulillah, that we were able to cover as maybe a year and a half, Alhamdulillah, since 2023 August, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it started, Alhamdulillah. So over the past, let's say, uh, 17, 18 months or whatever else, however many months it is, Alhamdulillah, we were able to cover Kitabul Tahara, Kitabul Salah, then Kitab Som, we covered as well, Alhamdulillah, and Zakat. So we covered, Alhamdulillah, we covered the main four topics, Alhamdulillah, right? There's one main topic that's remaining, which is Hajj, right? Generally, this is known as like the ibadat, right? So these ibadat, so for example, you have in Nurul Idah, another book, for example, they have only these subjects, right? Up until Hajj. Guys, all of you guys, hey, all of you guys, tell them quiet down. Okay. So generally for example, they stop after Hajj, right? So these ibadat, it's important. So this is what it's absolutely necessary for every person to know, right? As we mentioned, Tahara, every single person must know the rules related to Tahara. Every single person must know the rules related to Salah, fasting, and Zakat. And of course, Hajj, because the vast majority of us are eligible to go for Hajj, right? And it's mandatory on us to go for Hajj. And so therefore, it's necessary that we understand the rules and regulations related to Hajj. And this will be more of like following this. And, generally around the days of Hajj, I do a seminar, for example, on Hajj. So that's separate. That's more maybe like a walkthrough and so on, and like a step-by-step guide of Hajj. This will be like the fiqhi aspects of Hajj, the main rules related to Hajj. So this is going to be different than what we discussed around last year's Hajj time. Right? So it's going to be important, inshallah. So we'll start off, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Kitab al-Hajj. This is the chapter of Hajj. All right. So Hajj itself literally means intention, right? Qasd means intention, right? And meaning the definition is that you're intending to visit the house of Allah Ta'ala in a respectable manner, yeah? In a respectable manner to fulfill one of the obligations of the deen, one of the great obligations of the deen, which is Hajj, right? And so essentially you can summarize the ibadat into three, right? Either they are physical, right? They're physical, for example, they're physical ibadat, for example, salah and som, right? Fasting and prayer. These are physical ibadat. They're actually doing it, right? Or they are monetary. For example, zakat. Right? Zakat is only monetary. You're only giving money, right? And then you have Hajj, which is both, which is physical and is monetary. You're spending money and also you're spending your physical, or you're exhausting yourself physically to go for Hajj as well, right? So now we're discussing regarding Hajj. He says al-Hajju wajib. He starts off, he says Hajj is compulsory. Wajib here doesn't mean like our terminology of wajib, but wajib means like it's compulsory, it's necessary, it's a requirement, right? So Hajj is fard. Right? There's a difference of opinion that is Hajj necessary immediately, or is it necessary at some point in your life, right? Meaning if Hajj becomes fardan, you have the money, you have the physical capabilities, right? Is Hajj fardan you to go immediately, or can you delay and go years later, right? So the scholars, there's two opinions, and the more correct opinion is that it's necessary immediately. You must go as soon as you have the capabilities to go for Hajj. You should go for Hajj. You should not delay. You should not wait. Some people, they wait for unnecessarily, they wait for different things. They wait for, so many different things. They wait for their children. They wait for jobs. They wait for old age. They wait for random things where none of that is a part of Sharia, but rather you should go as soon as you have the physical capabilities to go for Hajj. Right? All right. Moving on. He says, who is it necessary on? على الأحرار المسلمين البالغين العقلاء الأصحاء إذا قدروا على الزاد والراحلة. Right? And the seventh condition, فاضلا عن المسكن وما لا بد منه وعن نفقة عيالي إلى حين عوده وكان الطريق آمنا. Right? So you have seven conditions for Hajj to be fard, or these are the requirements that you must meet for Hajj to be fard on you. Number one is you must be free, a free man, or a free person, right? The second is you must be a Muslim, obviously, right? The third is you must be baligh, right? So therefore, Hajj is not fard on someone who is not baligh, right? Why do I emphasize this fact? Because in this past Hajj that I went to, I saw people bringing their children, young babies, for example, strollers and all of these things. And I don't recommend it. I don't recommend bringing your kids for Hajj. I mean, wallahu alam, maybe it's desperation. Some people may be desperate. They don't have anybody else. That's possible, but it's unlikely, right? And so I don't recommend going with minors, especially if they're not baligh, right? Like 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. They're not, Hajj is not fard on them yet you're bringing them for Hajj. It's very difficult. Umrah is a different story. Umrah is, much more relaxed, but Hajj is very difficult, right? Not very difficult, meaning it's difficult. It has, there's a lot of stress and a lot of activities involved. So I don't recommend bringing kids, right? Although I did see a lot of children in Hajj. Wallahu. So that's the third condition. The fourth condition is you must be sane, mentally stable, right? Someone who's mentally unstable, Hajj is not fard on them. As with all of the ibadat, with all of the activities of worship, if someone is not mentally stable, then they're not required to fulfill them. Al-asihha, they must be healthy. So if someone is not healthy, they're not required to go, right? So for example, someone at a young age, for example, for whatever reason, they're not able, they have some problems, physical, limitations, they're not able to go. So in that case, it's, what is this? So in that case, it is, it's not necessary for them to go, but they should assign somebody else, right? Right? Someone who is sick and is not able to go, right? Hajj is still fard on them, but they're not able to go. In that case, they must assign somebody else to go on their behalf, right? And this is known as Al-Hajj al-Badl, right? That you assign somebody to go on your behalf. And so if you have the financial capabilities, you should finance it. Finance that person to go for Hajj, for example, and that person goes. Or if you know somebody who's going for multiple Hajj, for example, request them to go on your behalf. But listen, I'm a sick person. I cannot go, for example, and I don't have the financial capabilities to go for Hajj also. Financially, I'm not able, and physically also, I'm not able. So can you please go on my behalf? Right? So that's, especially, for example, like people who go for Hajj regularly, some scholars, for example, who go regularly, maybe speak to them as well. Okay. That's the fifth condition. The sixth condition is that you're able, or you have the financial capability. You have the capability to go and come back. Right? And this money is extra money aside from the money that you need for your housing and for your family expenses. Right? So the entire duration, for example, let's say Hajj. Nowadays, Hajj, see, in the past, obviously, Hajj was like months, right? Nowadays, Hajj is like, what, you have a 10-day package, 2 weeks package, you have 3 weeks package, at most, maybe 40 days. Most people, they're not like, especially from America, right? They're not going more than 40 days. Most people, they go for like 2, 3 weeks, for example, right? And so it's not that big of a deal nowadays, right? But in the past, if you're going for like 6 months, for example, going and coming, it's months, maybe sometimes a full year. Then yes, you need to make sure that the entire family is taken care of, that you're not just abandoning the family. Very important that you're not just abandoning the family, but rather you make sure that the family is taken care of, and then you go. But even now, it's still a point of consideration that yes, you should be able to take care of your family. And the last is that the path should be safe. Going and coming, it should be safe for you to go, right? So like, for example, during COVID, maybe it was, despite all of the amenities and luxuries we have, during COVID, the path maybe was not safe, right? And so therefore Hajj was closed, by the way, I mean, COVID, subhanAllah, who would have imagined, right? in our lifetime, we would see Hajj closed, right? SubhanAllah. Those pictures, especially like Ajib, SubhanAllah. Anyways, so the path is safe. Any questions over? These are the 7 conditions. Any questions? Okay. Right. ويعتبر في حق المرأة أن يكون لها محرم يحج بها أو زوج ولا يجوز لها أن تحج بغيرهما إذا كان بينها وبين مكة مسيرة 3 أيام فصاعدا. Okay. Now this is one condition, an 8th condition specifically for women, right? That in regards to women, it's necessary that she has a mahram to travel with her or a husband, right? And it is not permissible, according to us, it is not permissible for her to travel without a mahram or a husband. So when there is a safar, meaning more than 55 miles. So meaning like she's not living in Makkah, right? If she's living in Makkah, that's a different story. We're talking about someone who's traveling for Hajj, right? Now, this opens the discussion regarding, is it permissible for a woman to go for Hajj, right? Or Umrah, for example, to travel without a mahram. This is becoming more and more common in our days, right? So according to our scholars, we say that, I mean, there is a difference of opinion amongst our scholars as well, right? Um, for Umrah and other travels, let's say general travel, let's say general travels, right? Generally, a woman should not travel more than 55 miles without a mahram, generally, right? In the case, some scholars, they have made an exception that if, for example, if a woman, there's almost a guarantee of safety. There's almost a guarantee of safety that, for example, let's say a woman is going to board a flight, right? And one relative is dropping her off and another relative is picking her up, for example. In that case, some scholars have said, okay, maybe. Why? Because it's difficult for someone to always travel with the woman, right? So for example, let's say she has to travel, for example, to visit her parents, for example. Now, if her husband or her father must travel with her every single time, it may be difficult, right? So for some scholars, they have given an exception for that. But generally, a woman should travel with a mahram because even then, you never know. Even then, you never know, right? So generally, ideally, a woman should always travel with a mahram. But as I said, there may be some exceptions. As for the scenario when a woman is going for Hajj, okay? Hajj is a very strenuous journey, very difficult. Not very difficult. I keep saying very difficult. It is a difficult journey. It's not an easy journey, right? According to our scholars, so as we read here, it's makruh tahrimi. It's makruh tahrimi. When we say it's not permissible, meaning it's makruh tahrimi for her to go alone, right? So technically, if she does go for Hajj alone, technically her Hajj will be accepted. But it's makruh tahrimi. It's extremely disliked. Okay? It's extremely disliked for a woman to go for Hajj alone, according to our scholars. Right? Now, I'll give you an example. Right? This past Hajj, a woman, she went for Hajj from our community here. She went with me. Right? She's a bit elderly. She's not old, but she's a bit elderly, right? Now she needed a wheelchair. The entire trip. The entire trip, she needed a wheelchair. And, we tried. She didn't even take a wheelchair with her, right? Now we tried helping her. We got her a wheelchair, right? We bought a wheelchair for her. And, we tried helping her. But at the end of the day, there's not one person that's designated to help her for the entire trip, right? So she had difficulties. Her family, they were texting me from here that, how's my mom doing? Is she okay? Is everything all right? And so we tried helping, but at the end of the day, again, these are the complexities. These are the difficulties that come up when women are traveling alone. Same thing for men though. So my advice is that no person should go for Hajj alone. This is my humble advice. That no man, woman, no matter who you are, you should not go alone. No matter how old you are, no matter how young you are, you should not go alone. This is my humble advice. No matter if you're very healthy, you're very young, you're an athlete, whatever, it doesn't matter. My recommendation is you should not go alone. Right? There's another elderly man that went with us in our from our areas, and he had to be in the hospital. He was ambulanced into Arafah, and then he was ambulanced out of Arafah. I mean, Arafah is the main day, right? And he was ambulanced in because he could not be there physically, like by himself. So again, and there were times that I had to take him to the hospital myself because we didn't have helpers. We didn't have helpers, so I had to take him myself. Right? So the idea being that, and again, his family also, they're texting me, how's my father? He doesn't have his phone on him. He's not responding to his phone and so on and so forth. Well, what are you gonna do, right? It's difficult. So therefore, my recommendation is anybody who's going for Hajj, man or woman, you should definitely take somebody with you. As you get older, the chances and the possibilities of something going wrong increases. And so, yes, you should definitely, you grow older, you should definitely take somebody with you. And then for a woman, as I said, for a woman to travel alone for Hajj, it's makruh tahrimi. But technically her Hajj will be accepted. Yeah, Jim.
The health wheelchair. So is that?
Yeah, I mean it's related. So yes, let's say someone is wheelchair bound. Let's say someone is wheelchair bound. Let's say someone cannot travel long distance without a wheelchair. If that person doesn't have somebody that can take them and take responsibility of them, then yes, there is a case to be made for them to do Hajj al-Badr, right? There's a possibility. But again, every single Hajj al-Badr case is a separate, unique case. So therefore, anybody who has a Hajj al-Badr case should speak to a scholar specifically about their scenario, because sometimes people, they have the ability or they just don't want to go, for example, I'll just pay somebody to go for me. No. So generally, you should speak to a scholar about a specific scenario. But yes, if somebody is wheelchair bound and they are extremely elderly, then there is a case for them to not have to go themselves.
The question was, if it is not wheelchair bound, but they have to use in, say, some of the places, Jamarat and like some of the Tabaq and things like that.
Yeah.
So the health, the condition that.
Yeah. So I mean that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, fine. So if they're not wheelchair bound, but I mean, so like we had elderly people in our Hajj also. Like we had we had like 60s, 70s also, mashallah. Like men and women, they're strong, mashallah. They were walking the entire thing. So if something happens there, that's of course, I mean, that's out of that's taqdeer of Allah Ta'ala, right? So if someone is not wheelchair bound, that's what I'm saying. Like it's case by case, if someone is not wheelchair bound, but they're elderly, that doesn't automatically mean that they cannot go for Hajj. Like I said, this past Hajj, there are 70-year-olds who did the entire Hajj walking, mashallah. So it is possible.
So if someone is on behalf of you for Hajj, he has to finish his Fard or
according to our scholars, yes. According to our scholars, technically it's not necessary, but ideally, yes. Ideally, he should finish his own Hajj, and then
whatever is not for Fard on him.
when it's not fard on him, then he can go on behalf of him or her. When it's not fard on them, then they can go on behalf of other people.
Another thing also is that for mahram, there is if someone gets sick, severe sick, the ladies, so they need mahram to hospitalize. So they can go alone with the mahram. And is this required if someone lady is rich, she is on board her heart, but her brother doesn't have money. So is they require her to be twice rich to go to Hajj or only for?
No, so
Understand what I mean?
yeah, so she just has to pay for herself.
But if she take her brother with her, he's not rich, but she need to pay for.
Yeah.
But in that point, she has to be twice rich, that much rich to, bring her brother too.
Yeah, so according to our scholars, we say that if someone does not have a mahram who can go on their own money, they're not required to go. Right? So if a woman, she does not have a mahram who can go on their own money, then she's not required to go. Does that make sense?
So if women is eligible to go to Hajj and they have children, right? And the children is not age where they can live alone.
Mhm.
At that moment, the time is the matter, please.
Yeah, so in that case, women should not go. Like meaning in the sense that when the children are very young and the mother is breastfeeding, for example, in that time she should not go. She should wait some time, and then once the children are a bit more independent, then she should go.
Okay. And another
Because that may harm the child.
yeah, even if they get to like, not breastfeeding, maybe like 5, 6 years old, they might require, parents to be there because some kids actually don't want to be with
Yeah.
anybody else.
So it's case by case, right? So like,
Case.
for example, yes, some kids, they're extremely attached. So then, maybe, right?
Mhm.
But then many cases, like, I mean, the parents, they leave them for 2 weeks. It's okay,
Yeah, another question I have,
Yeah.
like financial, right? In this country, like, a lot of us has a debt, maybe related to loan or something. In that scenario, how do we actually deal with it?
Yeah, so it's not a requirement to finish your debts and then go for Hajj. You do not need to pay off all your debts to go for Hajj. There's a misunderstanding here that I must pay off all my debts, then I can go for Hajj. No. You can go for Hajj even if you have debts.
Right.
Yes, ideally you should not. Ideally you should pay off your debts, but that's not something that prevents you from going for Hajj.
And like student loans, they might be incurring interest, right?
Yeah.
So interest is a big issue.
Yeah.
And
So
how
yes,
do
of course, as much as especially interest, you should get rid of it first. All haram things, like things that are haram, get rid of them first, and then you should go for Hajj. That doesn't mean that you're using your interest as an excuse. That now your student loans are okay, I'm gonna wait 30 years, then I'll go for Hajj. Because why I have student loans? No, that means pay off your student loans much quicker, get out of interest much quicker, and then go for Hajj.
So that means like getting that off, then go to Hajj, but not before.
Yeah, ideally, because you want to get rid of we spoke about it yesterday. We spoke about it yesterday, right? That when a person is engaging in riba, this is waging war against Allah and His Messenger. فَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا فَأْذَنُوا بِحَرْبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. If you don't do this, then you're waging war against Allah and His Messenger. Right? So you should get out of riba first, and then you can go for Hajj. You have a question?
Just for clarity, right? The requirement for mahram is for travel security, as what you said, right?
Yes.
It has nothing to do with the accounts, and women can do Umrah on their own separately.
Yes.
without Mahram and Hajj accounts.
Yes, it doesn't have to do with the arkan. So yes, you are right. Women can technically do the arkan of Hajj by themselves. They don't need their husband to perform it with them. It's just for the sake of travel and safety and security and so on.
What about the interstate travels if it is more than 55 miles? I mean, you said it's not permissible, but these days a lot of women travel alone, let's say from here to New York.
Yeah.
What
So
would religion tell them about it?
yeah. So as I said, I mean, like it's not good. It's not good for women to travel alone without mahrams across states regularly. As I said, like if it's like a flight, for example, and it's a safe flight, for example, meaning the mahram drops off and the mahram picks up, for example, there's maybe some exceptions to it, but generally it should not be done. Yeah, generally women should not travel alone. Okay, any other questions? Right. All right, so then he talks about the miqat, right? I'm not going to go into the miqat because most of us don't need to know where the miqat is and so on and so forth, which miqat is for which people. You just have to understand that most of us, we land either in Medina or Jeddah, right? Most of us, we're landing either in Medina or Jeddah. If you're landing in Medina, then you don't have to worry about ihram. If you're landing in Jeddah, then you must wear your ihram before you land in Jeddah. Very important, okay? There was a religious family, and they said, well, we're going for Umrah. I said, okay, mashallah, good. And they were just, running things by me. And they say, okay, we're going to go put ihram on at Jeddah airport. I said, what are you talking about? This is a religious family, right? Religious family. And they said, we're going to do ihram at Jeddah airport. I said, you can't do that. They're like, we didn't know that. It's important. Yeah, many people, they do that. They don't know. So you have to put your ihram on before you land in Jeddah. Yes, you can put your ihram anywhere. You can put your ihram from here. You can put your ihram in Turkey or your layover, for example, wherever you stop, Riyadh, wherever it is. But you must put it on before you land in Jeddah. Okay. This is let's try to finish up miqat and then we'll end off, inshallah. So just two more lines. ومن كان بعد المواقيت فميقاته الحل, right? Someone who is inside the miqat, meaning they're in the boundaries, right? So like for example, let's say this is right. Let's say this is the haram, okay? This is haram. This is hil. This is known as hil, meaning the area just outside of the haram area, right? Hil, right? And then this is the miqat. This entire area is considered the miqat. So for example, Jeddah is inside the miqat, but within the hil, outside of the haram. Okay. So for example, Masjid Aisha is just outside of the haram area. Okay. So this is the haram. Masjid Aisha is just at the edge of it, in the hil area. Hil. Okay. So therefore, that's why someone who is in this area, their miqat is al-hil. Their miqat is in this area. Okay. Their miqat will be somewhere here, meaning anywhere from there. Right.
This applies more of local people, right?
Yeah, no, this is for Makkah, like people living in Makkah, specifically outside of Haram. Like so, as I said, like here, this is Haram, this is Hil, this is Miqat, right? So, for example, like Jeddah, let's assume like Jeddah is right here, for example. This is, for example, Makkah, the city Makkah, and then this is the, or for let's say Aziziyah and all that is in here, for example, or depending. I don't want to make broad statements, right? But basically, this is the Hil area, and this is the Haram area. Like that's Haram. Like you cannot, like in the Haram, it's a lot more like difficult, and you have a lot more restrictions, right? So, for example, you cannot cut trees, you cannot kill animals, you cannot do all of these other things, right? Hil, you can do that. Hil is outside of the Haram, but it's still within the boundaries of the miqat. Understand? Okay. وَمَنْ كَانَ بِمَكَّةِ, the one who lives inside Makkah, فَمِيقَاتُهُ فِي الْحَجِّ الْحَرَمِ. His miqat in Hajj is the Haram. Right? وَفِي الْعُمْرَةِ الْحِلْ. Right? What does this mean? Oh, and in Umrah, it's Hil, which is Masjid Aisha, right? So what he's saying here is that if you're living inside Makkah, what does it mean to live inside Makkah? Either permanently or temporarily. So when we go for Hajj, generally, we go as someone who's doing Hajj and Umrah. Umrah and Hajj rather, right? Someone who's doing Umrah and Hajj. This is known as Tamattu'. Al-Hajj al-Tamattu'. There are three types of Hajj. Al-Hajj al-Qiran, Al-Hajj al-Tamattu', and we're going to go over in detail later, inshallah. Al-Hajj al-Qiran, Al-Hajj al-Tamattu', and Hajj al-Ifrad. Ifrad is you go only for Hajj. So you are wearing ihram from here, from wherever, right? Before the miqat, and you're going directly for Hajj. No Umrah, nothing. Right? Tamattu' is that you're going, you wear ihram before the miqat, and you're wearing ihram for Umrah. You're wearing ihram for Umrah, so you go do Umrah first, get out of ihram, and then you get back into ihram for Hajj. At that point, when you're getting back into ihram for Hajj, you are technically a temporary resident. Understand? Once you finish Umrah, you're technically a temporary resident of the Haram area. And so therefore, when you want to make your ihram for Hajj, you just make it from your hotel, from that Haram area, from this Haram area. Understand? Yes? I'm just like, generally we do it, right? We just do it. That you just wear your ihram from your hotel. I'm sure your scholar tells you that wear your ihram from your hotel, and then we'll go to Mina from our hotels. Yes? Yes? Those of you who went for Hajj, that's what they tell you, that, just wear your ihram from the hotel, and then we'll go to Mina from the hotels. Right? What does that mean? Meaning you are in the Haram area. And so therefore, you do not need to go to Masjid Aisha to wear your ihram. But in Umrah, you need to go to Masjid Aisha. Masjid Aisha is in the hill area. So it's outside of the haram. It's directly outside of that's the one of the closest areas outside of the haram area. And that's why most people, they go there. Okay?
But that's not out in the miqat.
It is inside the miqat. This is the entire miqat. This, okay, again, that's what I'm showing. I'm physically showing you. Imagine this is haram, this small area. This entire area is hill, and assume Masjid Aisha is right here, for example, just at the border of the haram. Right? Assume it's just at the border of the haram and hill. That's where Masjid Aisha is. And then Jeddah, for example, is right here. So all of this is inside the miqat, including Jeddah inside the miqat. I'm just giving you a visualization of it. Okay? We'll stop here. Any questions?
If you have to do multiple Umrah while you're there, you go to Masjid Aisha first.
Yes. If you wanted to do multiple Umrahs, then you will go to Masjid Aisha and then come back. Any other questions? Okay. All right. We'll stop here, inshallah. جزاكم الله خيرا. سبحان الله وبحمده. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك. نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم.